Oh, hello there. My name's Barker, back with another installment of Be a Better GM. Whoa! Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about something pretty important and pretty awesome. I would say its awesomeness is equal to its importance. Perhaps some may argue that its awesomeness is in fact found to be parallel to the importance of this thing. They're the same, you know. The point is they're the same. What the hell? Get out of my eye! But I think the coolest part of this video is that it's the first one that I've taken directly from the comment feed. One of you requested this, and that's cool. And it's cool for me because if you don't like it, blame that guy. Today we're going to be talking about non-combat encounters. You see, they're very similar to combat encounters, except for non. Either way, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm actually going to say that non-combat encounters are more important than combat encounters. Unless your players honestly don't care about plot, then it becomes the other way. But even then, you really want to come back around. But what does it mean? I suppose it can depend on your campaign, or the players that are sitting at your table. So what we're going to do is talk about 3 separate things that will help to spice up the encounters in your game, as well as the overall plot. Number 1. The first piece of advice I could hope to give you. Go play The Legend of Zelda. Personally, I like the Ocarina of Time, but I think you can actually play any one of those games. Legend of Zelda, hacking and slashing and riding Epona. Yeah. And heroism and courage and rescuing the princess and duking it out with the biggest tool bad guy you've ever seen in your life. These are the things you think of when you think of The Legend of Zelda, but what people don't realize is that those games are filled to the brim with non-combat encounters. The same non-combat encounters that you should fill your campaign with. I'm talking about small puzzles that don't take very long to figure out, but they add a little more time to your game, as well as immersion into the world that you're trying to create. That's what it's all about. Immersion. Your players, drown them in immersion. That last line did not make sense. But let's think about the last time you played that video game. Side note, if you haven't played that video game, what are you doing? You walk into the room of a dungeon, okay? In the middle of the room is this big burning fire pit. And in the 4 corners of the room are 4 separate torches that are not lit. Also, next to the fire pit, there's some sticks. What do I do? Well, I'll give you a hint. It starts with you, and it ends with light the torches. You light the torches. And once the torches are lit, you hear a noise, and some door opens in the side of the room. Put something like that in your campaign. Now, I know a lot of DMs will say something like, bro, that is way too easy for a non-combat encounter. And they'd be right, it is easy. So what I might do to spice that encounter up would be to make it so the torches have to be lit in a certain order. Now, don't get me wrong, if they're lit in the wrong order, the door still opens, but now there's a trap that's sprung, or they're attacked by kobolds. I would keep the game moving. I wouldn't stop it and tell them that they have to know you have to reignite all the torches again in a different order to open the door. And then, I mean, my players would look at me like this. What torches? Boring. And hey, if they light the torches in the right order, maybe I'll give them something, like a magical item, a magical lamp. A genie comes out of the lamp, or a genie comes out of a boombox. Either way, try it out. Put a bunch of these little easy puzzles throughout your campaign and see how it works for you. It will most likely make the whole game better. So try it out. So let's think of some examples of these little puzzles. Maybe there's a room full of lit torches, and your players have to figure out which one of the torches is lit by magical fire and then dispel the magic. Then the door opens. Maybe there's a room with 3 kobolds that are each standing in front of their own corresponding door. And each of them are trying to persuade your players that the door that they're standing in front of is not the one that's trapped, or the one with an evil beholder behind it. And they're arguing with each other, and they're arguing with you. And so your players will have to figure out which one of them is telling the truth. What will they do? Try to figure out which kobold is lying? Or try to detect traps on each of the doors? It's something small and it won't take that much time. Try it out. Let's say your players enter a room with 1 door and it's locked by a portcullis, okay? And the only way to open it is to put all of your body weight on some sort of floor switch. And once you do that, once you stand on it, the portcullis opens and all the other characters can run through freely. But here's the catch. The moment your character steps off of the switch, the portcullis closes. Legend of Zelda! Ugh. Who's gonna go through the opening? Who's gonna stay and stand on the switch? You ever want to split up your party but you don't know how? That. So that's all well and good. Let's now move on to step 2 of spicing up your non-combat encounters. Riddles. We all love riddles. And in the age of Google, they're pretty easy to find. But the biggest problem with riddles is that they're either way too easy and your players just breeze through the room like it's nothing, or they're way too difficult and then you have to think of some other way for your characters to get past this encounter. Here's a simple trick that I do to make my riddles more fun and more interesting. So let's say my players are coming up to this door and it won't open, but written on the door is a riddle. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, my players speak the riddle and then they enter. That's easy. But here's the deal. I put the riddle in another language. Whether it's Elvish or Dwarven or Draconic, it doesn't matter. But here's the thing. I don't just ask my players which one of them speaks Elvish and then tell that player what the riddle says. Nah, you see what I do is I actually type up the riddle in Elvish. It's really easy. All you gotta do is Google Elvish fonts and you can download them right to your computer. And on the back of this is the guide, the legend, what each letter means. I give this to the players and I have them translate the riddle. Then, once the riddle is translated, they can solve it easily and the door opens. See, the non-combat encounter and the fun did not happen by solving the riddle. It happened in the process of translating it. See, in D&D and Pathfinder and a lot of other games, combat involves the 3 physical abilities: strength, dexterity, constitution. So what a lot of DMs do is they make the mistake of assuming that the non-combat encounters should be the other 3 abilities: intelligence, wisdom, charisma, yeah, charisma. Who cares about bards? So if you have a non-combat encounter, don't go to the character sheets at all, okay? Use your player's brains. You won't regret it. And that actually leads us to the 3rd and final tip. Use things like these. What this is like a puzzle that you can get at a museum or a hobby store or a Hastings. Let me give you a close-up. Where's it? How do I get a close-up? There it is. You see, I was holding it in front of the screen. See? You can't see it when it's in front of the screen. This one in particular is 2 rings that you have to get apart, but it's like a maze. So it's very difficult. You can find these in all different varieties. But basically, the next time one of your players opens up a treasure chest, hand them this and tell them that they found it in the chest. Things like this are totally immersive, especially if they look a little fantasy-like. But the one problem with them is if my player is sitting at the table solving this puzzle, he's not going to be role-playing. So what I do to solve that is I look at his character's intelligence score, and whatever his score is, I give him that many minutes to work on it. Now while he's doing that, I might roleplay with the rest of the group, or we might take a 10-minute break while he tries to solve it. But either way, when his time is up, I take it away from him. It's still in his character's possession, but he's just not working on it now. And that leads us to the final overall goal of non-combat encounters. What I just did there is I created a non-combat encounter that might last for 3 sessions or more. See, that's the thing. Non-combat encounters should not just be simple ways to give your players experience points and prevent them from getting bored. They should be tools that you use to keep your players immersed in the game world. So what happens when my player solves this puzzle? That is where the fun begins. So that's all for today on non-combat encounters. Thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate all of the comments that people have been posting underneath. I actually tuned into YouTube to find help on DMing before I decided to make my own channel. So the fact that I can give back to the community in some way is pretty cool. Again, if you have any suggestions on future videos, post them down there in the comments section and they will be addressed in future videos. Godspeed, Barker signing off.